Hello everyone, my name is Meghan LeVota. I am an ENFJ and I have been studying and obsessed with Carl Jung's theory of cognitive functions and personality for almost 7 years now. And this video is going to be the first video of a series where I discuss how each of the 16 personality types want to be treated by their boss, or how each personality type wants to be managed. And hopefully this video will be useful to you if you are in a situation where you are trying to get the most out of your employees, or you just want to understand them better. Maybe you aren't trying to squeeze them for their efforts, but you just, you want to be a good boss, you want to manage them well so that they succeed. Today I'm going to be talking about the ENFJ. And I am an ENFJ, and so I'm going to start there because it would be a little bit easier for me to answer. For those of you who do watch my videos a lot, I'm sorry if I am going to be kind of going into things that you might think are obvious. This video is intended to help more people that perhaps don't know as much about this stuff. ENFJs are extroverted. They value feeling and intuition and judging. And judging, all that really means is not that they're judgmental, but that we are focused on, we will share our judgments outwardly as opposed to keeping them in. So an ENFJ is going to be very forthright, because all EJs sort of are that way. We communicate what's on our minds very freely, and so we could be, because of that, if you're managing an ENFJ, communication is extremely important to us. But we don't just need the facts and the numbers. We want to know where you're coming from. We want to know who is this going to impact. We want to know for what cause, why. And that's our NI, that's our intuition showing up. We want to know why. So I think what I'm going to do before I start getting general is I'm going to answer the question personally as an ENFJ, and then go into the more general what you should expect from ENFJs. Personally, I'm the sort of person that does not like to be told what to do. That is very hard for me. I can be led and managed if I really believe in what the person is doing, but because I said so is not going to work on me. Authority is not going to work on me. Because I am an intuitive, I tend to be a sort of person that I'm very into counterculture, you could say. I am very much against the man, things like that. I'm going to want to, forge my own path and do my own thing. And there could be a struggle if I have a boss that it has very traditional views and sort of expects me to go along with those traditional views. Now, I can go along with the traditional views if you explain yourself to me and if you explain why that's important to you. But if you don't explain why it's important to you, if you don't explain the end goal or why it's the best outcome for the group, I'm probably not going to be very responsive to that. So that is a very important thing to remember when managing an ENFJ. And it might be very difficult if you are managing an ENFJ. They might seem very high maintenance. And that's because we aren't going to just do what you want us to do unless you've communicated it. And I understand how that could be a lot of effort for a boss, but you have to realize that some people are more natural leaders and some people aren't. And if you are managing an ENFJ, you are managing a natural leader. And that doesn't mean that we're trying to subvert your authority. That doesn't mean we don't respect you. It just means that the way that we are wired as ENFJs is more focused on leadership. We're more focused on strategy, and we're more focused on making sure that the organization at large, or you, or the group, whatever, that we are all succeeding. We're very focused on mutual benefit. And so if we can't see that end goal, if we can't see that vision, then it's going to be very hard for us to function. We aren't trying to be rude. We aren't trying to undermine you. Like, I respect your authority. I just literally don't know how to function any other way. I am a strategy-minded person, and if I see gaps in an organization, I'm going to say, why aren't we doing this? We should do this, and I'm going to volunteer. Something to keep in mind, though, with an ENFJ, if you're managing them, is that especially when they're younger, they're going to be the sort of person to volunteer to do things because they see that the group needs them to be done, and not necessarily ask to be compensated for it, because we're doing it because it's the right thing to do, and we aren't thinking about, oh, should I be asking for a raise? Or, oh, am I biting off more than I could chew? Or, oh, am I giving more than I'm getting? And so if you're managing an ENFJ, make sure that you're paying attention to what they're actually doing and ask them what they're actually doing, because they might not think to volunteer info to you. They're going to just see problems in the group and volunteer to fix them if they think that it's going to make the group happier, and not even be thinking about their raise. And they also are not the type to sit you down and tell you step by step, or we're not very great at explaining our value. We expect you to see our value because we are always seeing the value in everyone else. So an issue that you could run into is an ENFJ not asking for a raise, and maybe you assuming that they don't see their own value, or maybe they aren't a value to your organization. You might need to be asking them, sort of assuming that they are undercutting themselves, because it might be time for them to have a raise, or it might be time for you to tell them to stop going above and beyond, because it's not fair for them to do that unless they're being compensated. That is something huge for us. There's going to be a lot of, if you're managing an entry-level ENFJ, they probably are going to naturally sort of be the leader of a group, and either give them a raise and allow them to be that leader, or tell them to be patient and to calm down and to know their role, because that's going to be hard for them. We're going to keep volunteering to help the group, and that's where ENFJs could get ourselves into this issue where we think, I do everything for everyone and I'm never appreciated and blah, blah, blah. Remind them, if you don't want them to be taking that sort of initiative, remind them that they're allowed to relax. That is very important. And ENFJs aren't going to brag to the boss and try and impress you. We're going to expect you to see our value because we see the world in terms of value that people bring very, very obviously. If you're dealing with an ENFJ who is asking you a lot of questions that seem like obvious to you, be patient with them, because we want to do it. We want to do it right. We aren't going to make assumptions or guess too much in doing a job. But and I think if you're managing an ENFJ, there's going to be a lot of questions up front. There's going to be a lot of learning curve, because they're going to want to really get inside your brain and know exactly why the job needs to be done that way. And they're probably going to be, if it works out and if it's a good fit for both of you, they're going to be the sort of employee that can totally do their own thing once they know what it is that they need to be doing, and once they really grasp what that is. But when we aren't very adaptable. We aren't going to just pick up new systems and run with it. We're going to need to really sit on it, and don't expect us to just accept what has always been done. We're probably going to be like, hey, are you sure that this is the right software for what we're doing? Or are you sure that this is actually what the people need? Because for us, we're focused on people. It's very rare for us to just be like, I'm just in it for a paycheck and then I'm going to go home. We don't really segment that sort of thing. I mean, we could if we get to the point where we're very burnt out, but we want to have a meaning in what we do. We want to know why what we're doing matters. We're very intentional people, and if we don't see an intent, it could be easy for us to become, what's the word I'm thinking of? Disengaged employees. If we don't see a purpose for what we're doing, or if we think that our job might as well not exist and that society would run exactly as it should, then we're probably going to be very disgruntled and maybe even lazy. This could be an issue of us just having our head in the clouds so high that we forget that the small details really are important. So remember, we need to feel appreciated. We need feedback, good and bad. Don't be afraid of giving us negative feedback. We want that negative feedback. We don't want you to be upset with us. We may seem really emotional, but don't treat us like a ticking time bomb. Don't treat us like you have to walk around us on eggshells. Tell us if we're doing something wrong. We want you to be happy. We want to have a purpose. We want our organization to do well, and we want to know. We want that feedback. But remember, don't just do one or the other. Don't just do positive feedback and no negative, because we're going to assume that there is no negative. We're going to keep doing it the way that we've been doing it. And if you just give us negative, then we are going to feel like we suck at our jobs. And if we feel like we suck at our jobs, then it's going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy. We are going to suck at our jobs. We need feedback. And I know that, like I said, that can make us very difficult to work with. That can make us very high maintenance seeming. This is why I think it's best for ENFJs to eventually either work for themselves or move their way up in an organization where they are a leader, because we don't like to respond to people. We like to have this sort of bird's eye view, look at all the moving parts, and make sure that it's all done from a strategy perspective. And ENFJs are likely the sort of people that are going to move up into those roles quicker than others. But as I'm going to talk about in some of the other videos, it doesn't mean that we are more useful to an organization or that we're better. It just means that we have different skills. And so I'm not trying to say that we're better workers, because I think what happens for a lot of other personality types is that they like where they're at and they don't want to move up because they like being more of a technician versus an entrepreneur. They like doing the work. They like being in the weeds, and they're good at being in the weeds, and you should let them be that way. ENFJs are not good at being in the weeds. That's our difficulty. We are good at strategy, and the thing is that since this is a rare personality type, it can be very difficult for us because the world is pretty much set up so that you're supposed to prove that you're good at being in the weeds so that you can move up and then do strategy. If you're managing an ENFJ, they are going to have trouble being in the weeds. So don't look at that as a tell that they won't be good at strategy, because for them, the being in the weeds doesn't come first. The details are the things that come last. We are making sure, no matter what our role is, even if we're at the bottom of the barrel, we're making sure that the organization is running smoothly and that everyone, that there's a mutual benefit for all and that everything's getting done. And then we're going to do our job. And then, it's very hard for us to have this sort of ego individual perspective, because for us, everything fits into this larger theme of society and the group. And if we're having trouble seeing that, take time and help us see that. Like, have a chat with us. For me, the best relationships I've had with bosses are ones that have taken the time to have a daily, or not daily, like at least like a weekly check-in or some sort of regular check-in. We want to not just work with you, we want to be cordial with you. We want to have some sort of relationship with you. That doesn't mean we expect to be best friends. For those of you who are perhaps INTJs or ISTJs, or most TJs, or I guess thinkers in general, that might be hard for you. You might think that we are expecting you to talk too much, or like maybe you don't want to reveal any personal info. We just want to have some sort of bond with you. And set your boundaries. If you don't, you don't have to like us. Like, if you don't like us, that's fine. But we might think that reflects on our work. We might think that means that you think that we're bad at our job. So, we work best in situations where we have pleasant relations with those around us, those in the group. It doesn't mean we need to be best friends. Like, I think we're pretty good at understanding if somebody doesn't want to be our best friend. We could pick that up And, you know, at least for me, that's totally fine for me. It's just not going to be very fun for me if I don't at least know where the other person's coming from. Because it's very easy for me to sort of think in my head, oh, that's just how they are. And then like not expect them to be as emotionally expressive as I am. Yeah, everything that we do is going to want to be connected back to a why. And if you don't have a strong vision in your organization, an ENFJ is going to probably volunteer to build one for you, because it's going to be pretty wild for an ENFJ to think that they can work for an organization that doesn't have a vision. Or else it's like, why are you doing what you're doing? And if your organization just exists in the weeds, an ENFJ is going to probably have a difficult time. But I promise you, every organization and every industry has a purpose. It just might be harder if it's not something that the ENFJ is passionate in. It might be harder for them to see that purpose. And so, you know, I would encourage you to sit them down and explain to them why their job is important. Make them feel valued. The more you make an ENFJ feel valued, the more they're going to value you back and put their heart and soul into that organization. ENFJs are great employees for you if you want somebody to put their heart and soul into that organization and really just take it to new lengths. We are innovative. We are ahead of the curve. We care about what people want, especially in sort of things like marketing. We're going to understand and have this intuitive sense for people. No matter what career we're in, we have this intuitive sense for what people want. Be patient with us if we don't know how to explain that all the way. But okay, I guess another thing I'd like to say is that you might think that as an ENFJ, I'm an extrovert. I really like working with people. I do like working with people, but more than anything, I like to respect and enjoy the people that I work with. But I don't necessarily need to be working with people 24/7, because like I kind of work best when I'm not bothered by other people, because other people can slow me down, and I want to know that what I'm doing is helping people. And I also could be, what am I trying to say? I also could sort of be that employee where once I know what it is that I'm supposed to do, I just want to sit down, heads down, and figure it out. Because ENFJs have inferior TI, introverted thinking, which means that the way that we don't think out loud, we are thinking in our heads. We might need silence in order to think properly. If you want a quick answer, we're going to need to put our brains together and think about it. We might need some uninterrupted focus time. But if you're wanting us to, we're going to be very talkative in a meeting that has to do with making sure that people are working well together as a well-oiled machine. But we aren't going to be as quick on our feet when it comes to suggesting solutions and ideas from a company like standpoint. ESTJs and ENTJs are going to be way better at quickly coming up with solutions that you can run with. ENFJs are going to be more the sorts of people in meetings that are going to be like the one to speak up and say, does anyone have any other questions? Does everyone know what their job is to follow through? Like, we're going to be like, oh, does everyone know their job? Does everyone feel valued? Does everyone know what they're supposed to do? Have I been communicative enough? Do you know what you're expected of me? Or like those sorts of things. We're going to want to know that people are communicating well. We might not be as focused on the system of how the company actually works. We're going to be focused on the people within it and making sure that the people are communicating and on the same page, if that makes sense. Being on the same page is huge for me. Feedback is huge for me, like I said. Another thing is expectations. We're going to want those expectations voiced, not just because we want to feel like we're amazing and that we need, validation all the time. It's not validation, it's clarity that we're after. The thing with clarity is that we don't like to make assumptions. Like I said, we'd like to be on the same page. And so if you're a boss, don't expect that we're going to assume what you want from us. We're going to either want an example, or we're going to want you to correct us quickly. Let us know when we're doing something wrong so that we can correct it quickly. The expectations thing has been hard, where I've had bosses come to resent me where they haven't corrected me, or they have expected something from me that they didn't voice. And this is not great boss behavior, no matter who you are. But I think for ENFJs in particular, we want to make our bosses happy. We care about that almost more than we care about doing a good job. We care about making our boss's life easier if we have a boss, or the organization's life easier. We want to be of service and helpful. We aren't like ENTJs and ESTJs that are more focused on getting the job done and helping the company reach that bottom line. I mean, we want them to reach the bottom line, but really we're focused on the people. We want to make our boss's life easier. We want to do something good in the world. We aren't as focused on making sure that we make our money and making sure that what we're doing is profitable. If something is good for people, then we figure out how to make it profitable. We don't start with the profitability and the rationality and the reason. We shoot for the moon and hope to land on the stars. We want to figure out what the people want and then try and problem solve from there. And ENFJs won't be afraid to quit a job if we don't feel like we are giving our best to the world, or that our organization doesn't really deserve our efforts, because we don't cling to comfort in the same way that perhaps SJ types do, or even NPs. NPs can be sort of trapped by fear, and SJs can just be so focused on trying to ensure security that they don't set their heights high. We're good at brainstorming, but we're better at zoning in on the best idea and picking one idea. We could have a very one-track mind. But we know, we don't let ourselves get trapped. Just quit the job if it's not right for you. We're going to move on. If we are not treated with respect, we're going to try and move on. Obviously, this is going to be different based on people's circumstances. And I'm not trying to say that every ENFJ is going to, sort of have this abundant perspective. But we're just not, no matter where the ENFJ is in their life, we're not as afraid of change as a lot of people, and we are not as obsessed with security and comfort as others. So keep that in mind. And so, yes, I think that we are very difficult people to manage, which is why if you're an ENFJ watching this, I encourage you to really just set your heights high on what your dream job is, because you have that vision and you know where you want to go. And see, that's why ENFJs can quit jobs easily, is if they know where they want to go and then it becomes clear that this job is not where they want to go, then they'll leave, because we have that vision. And if your organization doesn't have that vision, then we're going to not want to stay with it. We need people that understand that vision and that get it. And we have very low patience, compared to most people. A lot of decisions can seem very do or die. We're not a take it one day at a time, let's see how this project goes sort of person. We are a let's change the way that we think about things now. Let's do a paradigm shift in this organization. We want change now, and we have a vision for that change. And if those ideas aren't listened to, that's going to be very hard for an ENFJ. So yeah, ENFJs work best at organizations that get that. Ideally, we'll live in a world where organizations will respect the inherent ways that each of the 16 types work. But, we're not really at that world now. So if you're an ENFJ watching this and you don't have a boss like that, we got to make some sacrifices. We got to, adapt with things. We aren't that adaptable. So that's another thing. But I guess to end this video, if you are managing an ENFJ, they want clear expectations. They want feedback, both good and bad. They want to be corrected when they're wrong. And they want you to be, have some sort of pleasant relations with them. They want to feel happy when they're with you. They don't want any sort of tension or weirdness. And also, they want you to respect their social cues. If they need to be left alone, if they have their headphones in, maybe not talk to them. They will need some silence and some, work time. And they could be very easily distracted by people talking because they're going to want to be in on the group and all that. But if you are managing an ENFJ, we can be difficult to manage. But show us an out, show us a vision. Help us identify, okay, is there any jobs within the organization that you can see yourself having in 5 to 10 years? Or what job do you want in 5 to 10 years? Even if you can help ENFJs connect how working with you is a part of their journey, even if it's not their most favorite job in the world, that will be very helpful in your relations with them. We could be a handful, but we also will really give to you and really invest in you in ways that a lot of other people might not be willing to do, because we don't really segment things. We don't emotionally segment. I don't really segment my career and my life, because that is part of my life. And a lot of people seem to segment these things. A lot of ENFJs won't. We don't have introverted sensing. We can be a handful, but we can be worth it if you communicate with us. And we want to be more than worth it to you. We don't want to be mediocre. We want to be more than worth it. We want to change things for you. We want to help you. And if you don't feel like we're helping you, if you don't feel like we're the right person for you, for your company, then we don't want to be there. We want to leave and give you an opportunity to find that perfect person for you and that perfect employee for you. And we want to feel like we are in our spot, So hopefully this video was helpful. If you have any other comments, I will try my best to answer them. Or if you'd like to work with me one-on-one in any sort of consulting or coaching capacity, I will have those links below. Also, I am going to be making this a series. If you are a different personality type and you have any ideas or would like to comment with your experience of how you like to be managed, I may include it in a video and I will give you a shout out. So if you would like to be shouted out in one of my videos, this could be a good opportunity to tell me your story and I will give you a shout out in that type's video. Thank you for watching and have a good rest of your day.